Welcome to Perfect-ish, where it's not about having perfect time management, but about perfecting your relationship with time. I'm your host, Callie Brigham, and every week we'll talk all things time and how to maximize it without burnout or guilt. Whether we're chatting with an expert or I'm sharing my 20 years of time management experience, you'll learn simple strategies to make every moment count. Here, it's all about getting close to perfect-ish. So let's synchronize our watches and dive in. Hi, friend. Okay, before we get into the show, I just want to say it is not too late. You may, and I hope that you may have been on our first ever live planning party. How fun was that? And on it, I mentioned the perfect-ish method, my new baby. She is how I am working with women like you to master your time, reclaim your peace, love your life. The early bird registration is closed, but I believe that there is still room. We will begin live on May 14th, and I'll start off teaching the very first and most pivotal stage. There's 7 stages in this brand new perfect-ish method, and I want you to be there live with me or on demand if self-study is better for you. And trust me, you are going to want a first look at this. I couldn't be more excited to put this into the world, and I want you there. If you are serious about setting yourself up for success with your schedule, without that burnout, head to the link in the show notes and grab your seat if there's still some left. Okay, let's get into today's episode. My son Braden, as you may know, is a goalkeeper. That's a whole lot of pressure. And let me also just say that some people say the goalkeeper is the most pressure position on the field. I beg to differ. The most pressure position, the hardest, the most challenging, the worst, if you will, is the goalkeeper's mom. Okay. But I also had one of his goalkeeper coaches say one time, this was kind of when he first started goalkeeping, that you have to be a little crazy to be a keeper. She was right. Yeah, she's a girl. She was right. Because you are literally throwing yourself on the ground. And it's not like the other kind of football where you have pads and a helmet. Nope, you have nothing but some gloves. And while everyone else is trying to score on you, you are diving and jumping and catching and doing all the crazy things. And part of why it's so hard is no matter how good you are, he is really good. How good you are, even the best keepers in the world get scored on. We tell him that repeatedly. It is gonna happen. The ball does have to go through 10 other players to get to you, but it is gonna happen. You are gonna get scored on. So what is a parent to do when your kid gets scored on? Because I guess it's all about us, right? Well, really where I'm going with this is we've all said this at one point, I'm sure, whether your kid is a goalkeeper kid, whether it was said to you, whether you've said it to other people or not. And this is what we say all the time. In essence, or in reality, we say, it's fine, shake it off, move on. Okay. Today's episode is when shake it off. I'm going to start to sing the song, right? Shake it off when it's not working. When shake it off doesn't work. Because shake it off sounds good in theory. Just let it go, right? And we mean well when we say it, we really do. And I've said it probably more times than I could count. But most of us don't just shake things off. It's not that easy. We stuff them down, we stew in them, or we let them spiral our whole day. And we're actually going to talk in future episodes about spiraling. But again, I'm guilty of it. I've said it, and I've thought that I've been empowering, and really I'm trying to encourage him. Or if I've said it to myself, I've really tried to have this be a tool for me to move on. Well, the other day I saw a video and it stopped me in my tracks. My husband actually sent it to me. I don't know if you do this with your spouse, your besties, your mom. We basically communicate in memes and reels. Okay, so he sent me this reel, and it was a soccer coach. And she, boy, these brilliant women, she said something that stopped me literally in my tracks. And I paused, and I went back, and I paused, and I went back, and I watched it and watched it and watched it. And this is what she said. Telling someone to shake it off isn't always helpful because not everyone knows how. She says, instead, I teach my players to ground themselves. They have a phrase or a gesture or something tangible that brings them back into the moment. and it helps them move forward. Huh. I thought, well, I messaged my husband. I said, that is a podcast episode. He said, I know. Well, what I try to do though is not just hear something, but I try to practice it for a little while. And then I'm going to share it with you if I feel like that it makes a difference. And it has. So I cannot wait to share with you the difference today between shake it off and grounding ourselves. Because life is going to throw us curveballs. Hello, whether a meeting that's running over or a toddler meltdown or a big goal that feels like it's going sideways. And we don't just need another pep talk, we need a tool. Speaking of tools, let me just pause for a quick commercial break. I'm going to be sharing one later in the show, actually, but I want to introduce you, oh my goodness, drum roll, to our first ever sponsor here at Perfectish. I mean, have we hit the big time or have we hit the big time? This is so perfect. Loop earplugs. I'm actually holding some up here while, if you're watching on YouTube. When I got mine in and I got a couple different varieties, I'll admit I thought that I was just going to be using the ones that are helping you sleep and drown out any noise that might happen in your bedroom at night, especially if you've been married a long time. You know what I'm talking about. And we value sleep a lot here on the podcast. So I thought, oh, perfect. This is going to help me drown out that noise. What I found though was there is a version of these earplugs that are perfect for our topic today and perfect for focus. These ones are called Quiet 2. I'll share a little bit more how they're a difference maker. You'll hear more about them in upcoming episodes too, but I want you to check them out. You can go to loopearplugs.com and we have a code. Oh, yes, we do. It'll be in the show notes. The code is Callie Brigham for 15% off. And the link is there. Okay, now, boy, we've had a couple different things we've had to talk about today, but let's get going. Grounding beats gritting or grinding. Like, I'm just trying to think of a way to describe it. Let's talk through, again, the downsides of Shake It Off. It does sound empowering in theory, but the reality is the simplicity can be misleading because it really tends to skip over the hard stuff, the disappointment, the frustration, the feeling out of control. And I don't think we're trying to be dramatic. We just don't really have the tool to get us back to the center. And then we make matters worse by beating ourselves up over it, which doesn't help either, right? Like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I move past this? Why can't I let this stay in the past? Why can't I just keep going? And when we're doing that, we're implying that it's just that easy and that if it's not, there's something wrong with us, especially when it comes to our schedule and our time and when things throw us off. And again, I will go back to this goalkeeper mentality that sometimes Braden could have taken an angle differently. He could have come out sooner. He could have anticipated something. Well, guess what? We can too. Sometimes we could have figured out the angle a little bit better. We could have approached something quicker. We could have been more proactive. We could have watched for signals. And then sometimes it's just soccer. It's just life. And you can have the best plan. You can have the best anticipation. Things are just going to happen. So shake it off. We're not going to do that. Sorry, Taylor. We're going to go with grounding instead. And I did a little research for you because I found this interesting. This is why grounding works. So here we go, the science. So when stress hits like a deadline or you spilled your coffee or you've had a hard conversation, our body naturally goes into fight or flight or freeze. And what grounding does is it just interrupts that. So you want to feel smart for a second? There's something called the parasympathetic nervous system. And when you ground yourself, it activates this. And here's why and why it matters. So grounding could be like and we're going to go into this, a deep breath, a mantra, a physical touch. This is going to send signals to that part of your brain that you are safe. And that's going to shift your body out of that immediate fight or flight mode into a calmer, more regulated state when we can actually handle our emotions better. And the American Institute of Stress, wow, what an interesting job there. They said that controlled breathing can reduce cortisol, that's the stress hormone, levels by up to 20% in just minutes. And if you are feeling stressed out, a reduction of 20%, yeah, I'll take it. So it activates that nervous system. Number two, it engages the prefrontal cortex. That's the rational brain. That's the one that all of us with teenagers say that it's not fully developed yet. Maybe not in us either. And when we're overwhelmed, the amygdala, That's the fear center in there. It takes over. What grounding does is it brings that prefrontal cortex back online. It like turns it back on, and that's going to help you think clearly and make better decisions. Because we don't want to have that pattern, right? That if this happened, then the rest of my day, the pattern is going to be bad news too. The pattern is going to be falling behind. The pattern is going to be why even try. And studies are showing that the mindfulness of this grounding increases the activity in that prefrontal cortex. And this is what governs planning, focus, and emotional regulation. All right, are we sold? Are we sold on grounding? The parasympathetic nervous system, the prefrontal cortex, and this is going to build our emotional resilience muscle. The repetition, and I was asking Braden about this, like, how do you handle these disappointments? How do you handle when something happens? And he said, well, the more that you do it and you have your mantra, you have your thing, the quicker that you're able to push through and get through. So this is going to build our mental muscle memory. The more you interrupt spiraling with grounding, the faster your brain learns how to bounce back. Yay. So you're going to do this repeatedly, and it gets to become quicker and quicker and quicker, like a cycle. According to the Harvard Medical School, consistent use of these techniques is linked to improved mood, heart rate variability, and resilience under pressure. Okay, the last thing about this, all my research I did for you, is this is going to prevent all or nothing thinking. Oh, goodness. So guilty of this. I call the everyone, always, no one, never. Saying a grounding mantra, like this is just a moment, this is just one moment, this reframes your experience. Instead of saying my whole day is ruined, you start thinking, this moment needs a pause. The subtle shift, so you're not saying the whole day, you're saying this one thing needs attention. This one moment, I need to just recognize it, pause, and move past it. This is going to help shift some of that overwhelm, some of that guilt, and that spiral. So what does it look like in real life? Let's get practical. We're like, okay, no more shake it off, absolutely grounding. For the soccer player, like the coach was talking about, it can be a phrase, she or he whispers, or a physical gesture. So I'm going to give you some examples, but before we do, let's just practice one. Put your hand over your heart and take 3 deep breaths. 1, 2, 3. That may have already started to reduce your stress 20%, as we heard. And then there's some things that we can say out loud. So we have our hand over our heart. We can say some of these. I'm going to drop these in our Facebook community because you may be driving or cooking or going for a walk or doing something else where you can't write them down. So I'll just do that for you. If you don't have access to that, it's in the show notes, of course, too. Here's just a few real quick ones. Again, you don't have to write them down. Reset, don't retreat. Control what I can, release what I can't. One thing right now. Next right step. Interrupt the spiral. Start from here. This moment is mine. I pivot, not panic. Steady is strong. I bend, not break. And then maybe some additional ones. Peace over panic. I'm anchored, I'm held. Breathe in grace. Exhale control. Whew. Still here. God is not rushed. I'm going to add in one that my mom's pastor always says, no surprises in heaven. I have time for what matters. He walks with me in the mess. This is holy ground, even now. Not perfect, present. Unrushed, undone, unshakable. Are you getting the idea? How about a few verses? Psalm 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. Maybe when we need to release control. 2 Timothy 1:7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind, if anxiety is trying to take over. Isaiah 26:3. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are fixed on you because they trust in you. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me if you feel overwhelmed. Lamentations 3:22-23, his mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning when you need a fresh start. Psalm 18:2, the Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer, if you feel unsteady. Matthew 11:28, come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Sometimes on my walk and my prayer time, I literally will take my hands like they're over my shoulders, and I will say, I give you my yoke, I give you my burden, and I take yours on. Your yoke is easy, your burden is light. And I literally will do that with my hands if you feel like you're carrying too much. And Psalm 55:22, cast your burden on the Lord, and he will sustain you if you feel like at your breaking point. I would suggest that you have some of these at the ready, whether it is on your phone in a note section, whether it's on Post-it notes, wherever you want to do, but choose something I want you to think of it as your emergency mantra. This is how you're going to train your brain with that reset. All right, this is how we ground ourselves. The next time you're feeling some kind of way, the next time you're just thinking, why am I feeling this way? I wish I wasn't. How did I let that happen? You have to tap into your emergency mantra. Now, what are some other physical grounding things that you could do? So you have your mantra, that's your number one, and your number two is your physical. Maybe it's texting your friend a recenter word. Maybe it's a phrase that the two of you have, and you just know that someone cares, or she's like, you've got this, girl. Maybe it is something like making a cup of tea and having a 3-minute reset, or for me, popping a Poppy or Olipop, pouring it in a fancy glass with a glass straw. Maybe for me, it's going out to sit on the porch for just a minute in the sun, let the wind chimes kind of flow through and the birds chirping. Maybe it's walking outside barefoot. That's literal grounding for maybe even just 60 seconds. Standing up and stretching. Here's another one that I'll do. I will take and it's good to have a couple. You want to have your emergency one, it's good to have a couple. I will take a deep breath, okay? That is always important. And thank God for that breath. Thank you, God, that I have breath in my lungs, because I know that there are literally some people that it is hard for them to breathe. So I'll thank God for the breath in my lungs, and then I'll thank him for my elbows. This came from working with one of my clients, and she had broken her elbow, and she said, do you understand how much you do with your elbow? How much you need your elbow? I was like, I don't know. I mean, I've hurt. I actually fell down the stairs. I think it was a year or so ago, and I had jet lag. We were coming back from, I don't know, Hawaii or Europe or something, and I fell down the last stair, and I hurt my elbow, and it hurt for weeks. And she said, once you've ever hurt your elbow and broken it like that, you will remember how grateful you are for your elbows. So every day I breathe and I thank God for my elbows. And then we both giggle. Okay. I've even been known to take a shower, not in the morning, but in the middle of the afternoon, and reset that way. And I mentioned that this is actually how I've started using, in one way, these focus earplugs from Loop, and our little sponsor, thank you. But you can put them in, I'll put one in right now, and then you twist it. And this is a physical ritual for me to quiet the noise. It shows myself that I'm entering a new headspace. So things like this, they're not just feel-good rituals, they're interruption patterns. I want you to think of them as an interruption pattern that helps your brain stop. So we're not ignoring things, we're just shifting momentum. And even on the worst days and the worst moments, this skill of bouncing back faster, that is the difference. That's what we're wanting to do. So what I want you to do is I want you to pick a grounding mantra and a grounding action, something that you could do anywhere. That's why I said you want to have your emergency one. You may not be able to take a shower everywhere or walk outside barefoot. So you're going to want to definitely pick your emergency one. It could be putting your hand over your heart. It could be thanking God for your elbows, and then your emergency mantra. Keep it simple and repeat it often. And this is going to be our new shake it off. T Swift is out. Grounding is in. I would love for you to tell me what your grounding ritual is going to be. And you know what? There's still going to be some balls that get through to the back of the net, But what we've learned is we've learned how to bounce back and how to stay in motion and how to stay prioritized. All right. One last quick reminder, the first stage of the Perfect Dish Method drops live in a private session with me on May 14th. This is the one you're not going to want to miss. It's real-time teaching and live Q&A, early access to the method that I think is really going to help manage your time specifically for you for good. You can click the show notes link to see if there's any spots still available. Breathe it out. Ground yourself, and remember, your time, your day, your plan isn't ruined. You're just one little pause from reclaiming it. All right. God bless, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Perfect-ish Time Management Podcast. Let's keep the fun going. Follow me on social and join our Facebook community. And if you're ready for some one-on-one time management coaching to reach the top of your game without burnout or guilt, I'd love to chat. Book a free interest call using the link in the show notes or send me a DM. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a 5-star review and share it with a friend who's ready to master their time too. Remember, we're in this together, making real progress towards becoming perfect-ish.